Okay, I think we should just get going. It's 1 minute past 11, and everybody's here. Hopefully that needs to be. So good morning and welcome along to today's Tide Masterclass, a step-by-step guide to registering your business. This is now our 21st Masterclass and the second in our September series. The series is how to start a small business for the whole of September. So we've changed things slightly for this month. 2 masterclasses a week, each around 30 minutes, giving you the how-to guide of how to get your new business up and running. Because of the slight time difference, we won't be doing a Q&A session at the end of this masterclass today. But if you have any questions, please do send them in to me on the email address, which I'll share with you later on, and we'll get those answered to you as soon as possible. Really pleased to see a good number of people live on the masterclass here with us today. A few people I recognise, and some that I don't. So I'll just give you a quick introduction of what we do here at Tide. My name's Kuan Hawker, and I'm the event manager. And Tide, we're the fastest growing online business current account provider in the UK. We currently have over 200,000 members, and our aim is to provide our members with a service that saves them both time and money when it comes to their business banking. We're brilliant for SMEs, for startups and for freelancers. And as there's no credit checks or startup or monthly fees, you can try us alongside your current business bank account, provided to see how we can save you time and money. The sign-up process itself, really simple, really quick, can take between 5 and 10 minutes. At the end of that time, you'll receive your sort code and your account number, so you can start your banking straight away. And a couple of working days later, you'll get your Tide card through the post. The app itself is really easy to set up and use. We have a huge amount of in-app products, which can make your banking life a lot easier as well. A couple of my favorites that we have, being able to send professional and fully customizable invoices through the app. So you can include your company logo, and you can fully edit that email that you send out with the invoice. And you can also, within the account, have 4 subcategories. So if you want to have a pot of money for your tax, for your marketing, for your event spend, all those kind of things, you can have up to 4 subcategories within the account, which will help save you time and money as well when you're dealing with your business banking. Great, so I will talk to you a bit later about how easy it is to become a Tide member and how you can stay up to date with what we're doing here at Tide. But now let's get on with the webinar. So a quick tour of Zoom if you haven't used it. Obviously you're on it and you're watching us now. If you have anything to say in the chat room, please do. And please keep an eye out in the chat room as well for links that I'll be posting that are covered by our panel. There are some links to some resources, and I'll put some links to our social channels in there as well. But now we're going to get on with the introductions. I'm really pleased to have our panelists on board today, and I thank them for their time and their effort in helping produce this masterclass. And so I'm going to ask Tor to introduce herself. Good morning, Tor.
Morning and welcome everyone. So I'm Tor Gregory and I am a lead product owner here at Tide. I've been with Tide now for around 10 months and my main focus is leading product development for our growth and acquisition channel. So that's developing new features and services to help our members onboard to Tide.
Perfect, thank you, Tor. And Harry, good morning.
Morning. To everyone watching, I'm Harry Birmingham. I'm in the editorial team at Sparqa Legal. I write and sort of maintain our company law focused documents. I've been at Sparqa since 2016. And before then, in a former life, I was a corporate lawyer for 6 years at a firm in London, but jumped ship to do something a bit more dynamic and exciting and less lawyery. But I'll tell you a little bit about Sparqa as well, I suppose, Kuan, now.
Great.
Sparqa is an online legal platform aimed at businesses in the UK, aiming to provide them sort of reliable and accessible and understandable legal guidance and documents at a reasonable price. So on our website, there's a link on the final slide to allow you to have a better look at us. But effectively, we have a sort of bank of Q&A guidance written by our editorial team, who are all qualified lawyers, and then all sorts of customizable documents and contracts which you can build for and customize for your business using our document assembly tool. And you can buy those on a pay-as-you-go basis, or you can just subscribe for a flat rate of £99 per year and get access to all of our documents. But all of our guidance is available free when you register. So there's lots of information on there to help businesses grow effectively and to try and cut out that expensive legal cost that I used to be a part of in my former life.
Wonderful, thank you both so much. So I think we'll move on to the main part of the webinar now. So Harry, there's obviously, hopefully most of our attendees today have decided they want to set up a company, and there are many reasons they would want to do that, which you may touch on. But once they've made that decision, what are going to be their next important considerations?
Yeah, exactly. So there's all sorts of reasons why you might want to start a company. I think we could probably do our own webinar on that, Q, and in the future.
Yeah.
It's got lots of different reasons. It limits your liability. It can be tax efficient if you incorporate a company. It can make your business seem more credible. All sorts of reasons why setting up a company is the most common way of running a business. But once you've made that decision to set up a company, I'm going to talk you through some of the sort of key considerations that you'll have to think about, the key decisions you'll have to make, and the key information that you'll have to put on your application form when you're applying to register a company, and hopefully demystify some of the terminology if it's something you haven't done before, or give you a good refresher if it's something you have done before. So firstly, I'm going to talk about when you're setting up your company, you have to specify who your directors are. Your directors are the people that manage your business day to day. So they're responsible for all the day-to-day decisions. If you're planning to be involved in the day-to-day management of the company you're setting up, you'll want to name yourself as one of the directors when you're applying to register your company. But the directors don't necessarily own the company. So I'm going to come on to shareholders next. It's the shareholders that own the company. But if you're setting up a company yourself and you're going to be involved in the running, you'll put yourself as a director. Every company has to have at least one director. So when you're applying, you've got to name at least one person. But beyond that, there's not much requirement for them to have any specific qualifications or experience. You don't have to have worked with a company before. You don't have to have any educational qualifications. You simply have to be at least 16 years old and not have been disqualified as a director before. And there's certain restrictions over if you've been bankrupt before. Other than that, you're free to put yourself on the form. You can have, as I say, at least one director you should name. You can name more than one if you like on the form and have more than one director when you incorporate. Often companies have one or two. That's the most common number of directors. I think about 80 or 90% of companies have two directors or one director. If you have more, you can potentially have more input into your decisions and more expertise on your board, but you've got to be a little bit careful about making sure you retain control of decisions, because every director usually has one vote on all board matters at board meetings. So the more directors you have, the more you're surrendering control of the board potentially as a director when you set up. So setting up with a small number of directors is usually suitable for a startup and may well just be just you as a director at the start, because you can appoint further directors later down the line. The only other thing to flag with directors is that if you name yourself as a director, you're going to have certain duties you owe to your company. We've got lots of guidance on these on our site, so I invite you to sort of look at Sparqa and familiarise yourself with those duties. Effectively, they just require you to act fairly and reasonably, and to make sure all your decisions are made using independent judgment and in the best interests of the company. So that's your directors. You also then will have to name your shareholders. Now, these are different from your directors, but they may well be the same person or people. They are the people, though, that own your company. So the shareholders are the owners. They have the right to receive profits by way of dividends. They have the right, effectively, to sell the company. If they sell their shares, they will be selling the company, and they will be the people that receive the proceeds. They also have the right to be consulted on certain key matters and key decisions. So your shareholders are important people. Much like directors, you have to name at least one person as a shareholder. And if you're going to be involved in the management of your business and you're setting up, you're likely to want to also be the owner of the business. So you're likely to name yourself as a shareholder. You have to give your shareholders at least one share. And on the form, when you're applying, you'll specify the number of shares you're giving to your shareholders. If you're the only shareholder, that's a pretty easy decision. You can just give yourself one, and that will give you 100% ownership of your company. You could also go for a higher number on the form. Often people do. They might go for 100 or 1,000. And the reason for doing that is because it gives you a little bit more flexibility about offering smaller portions of your company to potential investors or business partners in future. So if you've got 100 shares, you could offer 10 shares to a potential new business partner without sort of overly diluting yourself. But all of those things can be changed in future as well. So setting up with just one share is equally fine. If you've got more than one shareholder, you just need to be a little bit careful about the number of shares that you're issuing to each shareholder, because there's certain thresholds that give shareholders different rights. And again, we've got a very good summary of those different shareholder rights if you're going to be dividing up your share capital when you set up. And that's on the Sparqa site as well. When you're setting up, you also have to specify the nominal value of the shares you're issuing. This is something that often causes confusion for people setting up a company. It's nothing to do with the value of your company itself, that you don't have to carry out some kind of fag packet valuation exercise. You just simply insert a reasonable low sum. Companies House, I think, defaults to £1. You could use 1p, you could use 10p. It's very much an accounting thing. So just choose an easily divisible number to make life easy for your accountants. The last thing you specify in your shares is the type of shares you're issuing, which for a startup is almost always going to be ordinary shares. And that's what Companies House defaults to as well when you're setting up. If you want to issue shares with different rights, ordinary shares are basically just shares that have equal rights in terms of voting and to receive dividends. If you want to do anything more jazzy or more exciting, you can when you set up. But you'll probably need the input of a lawyer because you've got to draft the rights and the entitlements of shares in your articles of association, which I'll come on to later. But ordinary shares is usually fine. You've got to specify your company name when you're setting up your company and putting it on the form. This can't be the same as any other company's name, and it has to meet certain limited requirements. So it has to end in limited or LTD. It can't be more than a certain length. And it can't contain certain prohibited characters. We've got some guidance on that on our site, but the easiest way to check all those things is to use any of the company name availability checkers out there. Companies House has one, and other incorporation agents have them as well. You just plug in your name and it'll give you a nice green tick if it's something that would be accepted when you're applying. A word of slight caution about those though, those name availability checkers will not check whether your proposed name infringes other people's trademarks or intellectual property rights. So what that means is if you choose your name and some other company uses that in its branding and you intend to use that name in your branding and for your business as well, they could potentially object to that and you would not be allowed to do that. So it's worth checking on the IPO website, searching for trademarks just to make sure that there's nothing registered in your company's name, and just carrying out a bit more market research if you intend to trade under that name. You've also got to specify your registered office address when you're applying. This is your official address for correspondence, so you want to be able to receive post there. It'll also be listed publicly, so if you're going to use an address, it will be always associated with your company. You've got to keep certain registers and books there, and you've got to display your company's name there. So you've got to choose something that's suitable. Sometimes people will want to use a residential address because their business might not have a premises or an office or a sort of workshop that they use and that they could list there. So you could use a residential address, but just be cautious of all those things if you're going to. The other alternative here is to use your accountant's address, or to use an address that a serviced office provider might offer. And I think Tide offers a function to use a registered office address that isn't your own residential address when you're setting up, which obviously has its own benefits. Just make sure you can get the post from there though, because Companies House, HMRC and other government bodies might write to you there. Last but not least, the Articles of Association. This is the most exciting bit for corporate lawyers, and probably the least exciting bit when you're setting up your company. It's your company's constitution. It contains all sorts of legal rules on how you appoint directors, how you make decisions, how you pass company resolutions. Companies House makes it easy for you on this though when you're setting up a company by providing you default rules called the model articles, and that's what most companies will set up with. You just tick a little box when you're setting up and you'll get those default articles of association. They're designed to be suitable for most small businesses and most startups. If you want to set up with something more exciting or more jazzy or with more specific rules, you can do that. But you'll probably need a lawyer to draft those rules for you because you have to upload a full copy of them when you're making your application. So just tick model articles usually. You can change those later down the line if you need to, or if you want to do something more advanced. So that's a very whistle-stop tour of the key factors to bear in mind and the key information you'll need to provide when you're registering your company. Obviously, that's very quick. There's a lot more guidance on the Sparqa Legal website. And just one final thing to flag, I suppose. Once you've set up your company and registered, it immediately from day one triggers certain ongoing legal obligations and certain filing obligations and record keeping obligations that we've got some guidance on. And on the final slide, I've put a link onto Sparqa there, just to flag that those do trigger from day one. So once you've made that decision to incorporate and incorporated, you just need to make sure you're complying with those. But I think I can hand over to Tor now to talk through how it actually works, how all of this information works in practice when you're setting up.
That's great, Harry. Thank you so much. Yeah, as Harry said, he'll go through some resources later on. We'll get to that on the final slide as well. So yeah, we're going to talk to Tor now about what we here at Tide have in place to help our members with this journey of registering a company. Tor.
Brilliant, thank you. So, yeah, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how Tide can help you form your company. So once you've made decisions around all of the points that Harry's just gone through, you are now actually you're now in the position where you can actually physically register your company. Now, Tide has a company formation service, which we launched in January of this year. And basically it allows you to register and incorporate your company with Companies House and get a Tide account in one seamless journey. It's the first service of its type in the UK, so it's quite an exciting new service that we've launched. We waive the £12 incorporation fee, which Companies House charge if you go direct through Companies House and incorporate online with them. The reason that we are doing this at the moment is to really kind of emphasize our mission, which Kieran touched on earlier. We really want to help small businesses to save time and money. So by waiving that £12 fee, we are helping you save a little bit of money right up front before you've even incorporated your company. Our service enables you to incorporate a company and get a business bank account all in just 24 hours. So obviously there are scenarios when we'll have to ask additional questions, or Companies House take longer to get back to us than usual. So it may take slightly longer than the 24 hours, which usually you can get both a company and an account within the 24 hours, which is phenomenally quick, I would say. And then finally, we also have a service called Virtual Office Address, which again, Harry touched on. So this is the ability to use an address which we provide through a third party as your registered office address. The advantages of doing this is you can protect your personal address, you can receive Companies House and other official mail on the day that it's received, even if you are traveling, for example, as all of this mail is sent to you via email. So that's a real exciting new feature that we launched earlier this month. So I will tell you a little bit more about that when I go through our incorporation journey. So without further ado, I will just walk you through a few screenshots here, which are taken of our incorporation journey, and explain to you kind of what's happening at each stage of the journey and how we try and kind of guide you through that. It is worth noting that so far this year, we've incorporated 10,000 small businesses and therefore saved our small business cohort over £120,000 due to waiving the incorporation fee. So quite exciting for us. And we would obviously love you to get on board and use our service. And once you obviously have a business account with us, there's a load of other benefits and features that we have to help you run your business too. So in terms of registering, the first screen here on the left, you can search for your company name. So as Harry mentioned, there's a few restrictions here. There's certain words that you can't use. They are restricted by Companies House. And additionally, there's kind of validation in terms of length, etc. So we do all that validation for you. So you search a name there, you can select either limited or LTD. When you click search, we do that validation with Companies House to check if that name already exists and whether it meets their criteria. Assuming it does, you'll get a congratulations screen and you can proceed to the next screen. Mo, if we can, oh, brilliant, thank you. So we then present you with a little bit of information around your articles of association, your statement of capital, for example. So I won't go into too much detail on this call, given the time, but as Harry again mentioned, we use the default articles, the model articles. So it's very simple from your perspective. Also, when it comes to statement of capital, we issue one ordinary share valued at £1. You, as the person opening the account and incorporating the company, are the only director and the only shareholder. We currently don't have the capability to add additional shareholders. It is something that we're looking at doing in the future. However, should you wish to have more than one shareholder or director, what you can do is incorporate your company with us and then retrospectively add additional shareholders or directors directly with Companies House once your company has been incorporated. So then we go into just some questions. It is worth noting that we ask the minimum number of questions that we possibly can for you to incorporate a company and get an account. That's why our journey is so quick. Usually you can get through the entire journey within 5 to 10 minutes. So firstly, we ask for email address, and we ask for your full name. It is worth noting that this information will appear on the Companies House record. That's standard. It will appear there whether you apply through any other formation agent or directly with Companies House. We then ask for your date of birth and your mobile number. Again, your date of birth will appear on the public record, and that is just standard protocol. And the next screen, we ask for your personal address and whether you've lived there for more or less than 3 months. And then we ask some security information. Now, this security information is not actually for the benefit of Tide. This is purely for Companies House. They require this information. You can select here a number of different questions and then input the answers. Companies House require this in case you need to call them at any point to make any changes to your company. It is literally just to verify your identity, security questions that you would have with any bank, etc. We then ask for a trading address. So, for example, if you are setting up a shop, your trading address would be probably your shop address. Your trading address could easily be your personal address if you work from home, if you're a designer, for example. So this would just be the address which you physically trade from. This is also where we'll send your Tide Mastercard. This address won't appear on the Companies House record. So this is purely for us to keep for our records, and so we know where to send your Tide Mastercard. Then we ask for a registered office address, which is obviously what Harry spoke about a little bit earlier. So this is your official address with Companies House. So this is where they will send all their official mail. So it's important that you're able to access this mail quite quickly. So again, you can use your personal address should you wish to, but again, as Harry said, this will appear on the incorporation certificate and on the Companies House record. So if you want to keep your personal address private and separate from your company, then we highly suggest using an alternative address, which could be your trading address. However, if you don't have a trading address that's not your personal address, there is the option now to subscribe to our virtual office address feature, which, as I mentioned before, is new this month. It's $7.99 plus VAT per month, and basically we collaborate with a partner called Hoxton Mix, and they receive all your posts if you use their address as the registered office address. They will scan and email it to you on the day it is received. So that kind of the benefits of that means that it protects your personal address, but it also means if you're traveling, working from loads of different places, you can receive your post on the same day it's received. So I'm now going to flick through the next few screens very, very quickly because I'm aware of time. So the next we look at business category. So you search for what your business does. We then map that to something called a SIC code, which is used by Companies House to track trends in the UK. So we automatically map the business category you input to a SIC code. You can add additional SIC codes should you wish to, or change the one that we map it to. You can then review your application, edit anything that you might need to, review our terms and conditions and go through those. Once you agree to those terms and conditions, you can then continue to the final screen in the web journey, which is around activating your account. So at this point, you will need to download the app. You'll be able to sign in using the email address that you've already put in the journey. And then we'll just ask you to verify your identity. So this will be taking a selfie and verifying your ID, so your passport, your driving license. Once you've done that, your application is submitted. We then go on to send that information over to Companies House. We usually get a response from them between 6 and 8 hours, but longer at weekends because they do review every application manually. And then we're able to inform you usually within the 24 hours as to whether your company's been incorporated and you have a Tide account.
Wonderful. It's as easy as that.
It's as easy as that, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Tor. I think that gives us, our attendees, a real insight into how that tool and product works, and will hopefully help our members and potential new members who are on this webinar. So we've got a resource section coming up in a second. Just as I mentioned, I'll let Harry go through that in 1 minute, but just a bit more information about what you can expect from us over the next couple of days. You will all receive an email from us after this webinar, so after this masterclass, and in that email there'll be a link for you to click and become a member. All you have to do is click on that link, download the really simple to use and easy to use app, follow the really simple instructions, and you can become a Tide member very, very easily. I'm just about to put into the chat room the links to all of our social channels. There was a quick mention came in from Paul about where he can find all the other masterclasses that we've done since March. The link to our YouTube channel, Paul, is now in the chat room, so please go ahead, click on that link and subscribe as well. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and let us know what you think. If you would like to let us know about other topics or speakers you'd like to hear from, please do comment in the comment section on YouTube. But after this live event, you'll be prompted to a survey. If you have time, please do take part in that survey and give us some ideas on future topics and speakers we really like to hear from you. And during the resources section, I'll also be running a quick poll just about the quality of today's webinar. So if you have time to do that, please do so. Great, so now we'll move on to the resources section with Harry. And Harry, as you go through these, I'll be putting the live links that you talk about in the chat room. So if you are interested in what Harry is saying, please click on those links, which I'll share in the chat room now. Thanks, Harry.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think it's just to go through a few resources that we've got on Sparqa that you can use for your company. I think I went through very quickly sort of a whistle-stop tour of all those key bits of terminology and key things to bear in mind when you're setting up your company and the information you need to input. But we've got detailed Q&A guidance on all the aspects of setting up a company at Sparqa. And I'll invite you to sort of look at those, and it gives you much more specific detail about all sorts of little nuances that you might have questions on. And then the second point here is just that point that I flagged at the end of my spiel, talking about the company's record keeping obligations and filing obligations going forwards, and just reminding sort of business owners or founders that once they've set up their company, these obligations are triggered. So even if you don't do any trading and you leave your company sitting there sort of waiting to start, you've still got to file a confirmation statement at Companies House each year and file even just dormant accounts. So just making sure you're aware of those obligations. And again, there's a link to some guidance that we've got on that on Sparqa. We've also got a starting a company toolkit on Sparqa, which you can use, which kind of consolidates all of our starting a company resources into one place. And if you've got any queries about the legal side of things, there's live chat available on our website where you can just type in any question you've got, or you can email at info@sparqa.com, and one of our editorial team will get back to you. And I suppose that's it. I suppose this is very much all about sort of the exciting start of starting a business, and the aim of Sparqa is to kind of help you once you've started. There's all sorts of resources and contracts and documents and guidance that you can use as your business grows, and you can hopefully use all those as you grow and develop.
Brilliant, thank you, Harry. Yeah, really great. A lot of resources that people can use alongside being a Tide member. So really, really helpful. Thank you so much for that. So that brings us to the end of today's masterclass. Like I said, keep an eye out for those emails coming to you in the next couple of days, and click on the links as well, and use the links in the chat room there for our social channels to keep up to date with the rest of the masterclasses that we've got coming up during September and October. But yeah, that's all for now. So thank you, Harry. Thank you, Tor, for your time. Thank you for attendees for coming along and taking part, and I look forward to seeing you all at future masterclasses in the next few weeks. Thanks very much, and have a good Wednesday.